listening to the Nerdy Reads podcast, a hipster goblin media production.
I'm already hit record. All right. This is all part of it. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Nerdy Reads podcast. This is micro episode number 2 as we are continuing through the short story book by Stephen King, You Like It Darker. If you're joining us for the first time, we here at the Nerdy Reads podcast, we read nerdy stuff such as sci-fi, fantasy books, comics, manga, horror, and we discuss all sorts of nerd things from around the globe. We did have an author interview this past week with David Coomer, so go and check out that episode. And you can go back even further and see some of our normal episodes with New Stuff Cafe and all that kind of stuff. We will get back to that next week, where we will go back into having the more regular type of episode. But today we are talking about the short story Slide in Road. Robert, kick us off with what this one is about.
So on Slide in Road is the latest short story, I guess you would classify this, from Stephen King's You Like It Darker that we're going to be covering on this micro episode. This story follows the Brown family on a road trip to Derry, what up Pennywise, to visit their grandpop's sister who is dying from cancer. Grandpop insisted on taking a shortcut down Old Slide In Road in an effort to save some time when trouble arises.
Yeah, so another special treat that you have for this here micro episode is our very own sweet baby Dylan bought the book You Like It Darker and read this one with us this week. What's up, Dylan?
Yes, the book has been purchased. The Audible listen through has been listened through, and I'm ready to give my take on said book.
Nice.
Or short story, I guess.
Right. And, you know, you mentioned the audio book, and I don't mean to keep selling this, but I'm going to keep selling the fact that this is a great audio book. The dude narrating this is just unbelievable, top-notch performance by him. So check it out if you are an audiobook type of person. But yeah, so Slide in Road. We got into this. This is a very short one. And so we're on this road with this family with the annoying grandpa. Dylan,
Right.
Go ahead and give us some takes, my man. Hit us, dude. I want you to kind of take off with this a little bit.
All right. Start off, I agree. Annoying grandpa, 100%. Especially listening to the audio version, like you were kind of saying, like the audio guy did phenomenal, almost a little too phenomenal, because it was very annoying every time that old grandpa voice came in. But overall, I feel like the story was okay. I was expecting something a little more supernatural. I think going into it, thinking like Stephen King, as someone who haven't really read a whole lot of his stuff, but like I know a lot of the movies, so I was expecting a little more of that aspect of it, and I feel like it didn't really give off that. So it was definitely, or like I also kind of was thinking like, okay, maybe this is going like a Wrong Turn kind of vibe,
Sure.
which I don't think it was quite that. So it wasn't what I was expecting, but overall it was good. It was a good short read, and I'm all about short reads, you know. So
There's nothing wrong with the short read. Dylan, something you said that kind of sparked something in my mind here is, as we've gone through all of the short stories so far, we're well, as many as we've gone through at least, there hasn't been an excessive amount of that supernatural kind of thing. Now, like Danny Coughlin had the dream. We had aliens in our first story. But a lot of these have felt very much like, you know, that we've had like the thriller, the mystery novel. There's been some different types of things that we've experienced through the You Like It Darker story. So now I feel like I'm just on a whirlwind. I don't know what to expect from any of these. And I'm kind of with you. Like at the end of this one, I don't want to give it up yet, but it felt as you guys are messed up. Too far into the Slide in Road story quite yet, because I know we'll talk more about kind of what leads up to the very end. But at the end of this one, even I found myself like less surprised by how this one turned out versus because of some of the other stories within this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think for only, what was it, like 20 pages, I'll harp on Dylan said there wasn't very much supernatural. It's not. It's another like Stephen King grounded in reality, which I appreciated. This one's kind of told in 3 parts. Like the first third of the story, you have your family dynamic. We have the Brown family. You have Frank the dad, Corinne the wife, and then their 2 children, Billy and Mary, and old Grandpop Donald on a road trip to go visit his dying sister. And Grandpop is kind of like the main character in all this. He's trying to connect with the kids. There seems to be some weird dynamic between the husband and wife, but he didn't really have a whole lot of time to go into that, but there were a couple weird things thrown in. But at least the first third of the story is kind of setting up this family dynamic and what you can, like, giving him very brief personalities for these 5 characters.
Yeah, and so Grandpop is an interesting character because there was so much. It reminded me again because he's talking about Slide In Road. He's talking about his past as they're going in. He's reminiscing about what Slide In Road was to him when he was a kid. And it continues to feel as if, and this is kind of the magic of the short story, I guess, is it can kind of go wherever you want it to go. But it just feels like there were a lot of different places that he was wanting to take or could have taken this one. And so the car scene in this is probably the most memorable part for me, is the beginning part with the family in the car, dad's driving, grandpa's being annoying, even talking about how, what was it? He said the breath was so bad when he leaned up and started yelling. What was it again? It was like something crazy, like sewage and something else mixed or whatever. But it was the most as far as descriptions go, it was the most descriptive scene was in that car, because we've all been on a family road trip before that's uncomfortable, that the kids are being annoying. Like some of them want devices. They don't have service. Like I've been in that situation. Mary's reading old comic books, that Grandpa brought because, hey, here's something for you to do, kind of thing. So, yeah, I thought that car scene was very well done, and it put you there. Very well done.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Grandpop try to like relate to these grandkids that he even mentioned, like, I'm too old to have grandkids this young, because he's in like his 80s. Sure. So he's trying to connect with them like, hey, when I was a kid, I liked Archie comics, read about Veronica and Betty. And then the other kid just wants nothing to do with it. He's just happy to play video games, but he jokes around with Grandpop, and Grandpop kind of jokes around with him. So that little dynamic was nice, man, for sure. But they get on the Slide In Road, and he tells them it was like an old inn connected to a golf course or something. And they get to a point where the road's washed out. And this is kind of the second third of the story. They have to turn around. There's no way they can cross through it.
Yeah, I think that's where. Okay, so the road washed out. Is that what was the bottom line? Okay, because then he gets stuck in something. The dad does.
Yeah, he can't. There's not enough room to back the car up and then go back. He has to like reverse drive it back to the Slide In Road's driveway to turn around, and he ends up like doing a 3-point turn, I think they said, and he slid off the road into the ditch. It's like me driving.
What a scrub.
The dad even mentions like, oh, Grandpa just had to drive his old Buick. If we were in my car, I've got a backup camera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because they were in that classic car, bro. They don't make them like they used to.
That's right.
Yeah, Grandpa really would have made me want to blow my stack off.
Right.
Can you tell us? Can you give us some context, Dylan?
If you read it, you should know it.
Oh, well, if you didn't read it, it was a way to blow off steam, right?
Yeah, literally, like in the first. Yeah, and are we keeping this? I hope we keep this in. But we'll literally in the first like, I listened to it. So like the first like 2 minutes of it, all you hear is, I think it was the Grandpa talking about how he was gonna blow his stack off, and I was like, okay.
Come on, Grandpops.
Dylan, why? So like they're backing the car up, and Grandpops and the kids, they're at Slide In Road, right? They're at that little inn. What's going down up there, dude? What'd you think of how that all went down?
So I believe what you're referring to is like whenever is it Billy who sees the blue shoe? I think is that what it is? Yeah. And then of course that's when we are introduced to our antagonists. Galen
and Pete.
Galen and Pete, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like the way they were describing the scene, because I think he was talking about it, Billy sees like of course the shoe and then like the blood under. I think once it talked about the blood underneath the fingernails of one of the guys. I can't remember which one. I want to say it was maybe Pete.
I believe it was Pete. I think you're correct in that. And Pete keeps kind of asking Billy like, "Hey, what'd you see? Did you see something?"
Mm-hmm. And I feel like from there on, it kind of was just very predictable. It just kind of was like what you expected to happen probably kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. And then they're like trying to get a ride. I remember like they were trying to get like them to, I don't know if they were trying to take them somewhere or whatever, but I remember they specifically said that we can take the old dude out or something like that. I don't know. There was a lot that kind of went down there, I guess.
Well, it was a pretty tense scene from that point on, because you have the two kids are up at the inn and Grandpop's kind of down by the road. And then here comes these two adults out of nowhere with the two kids. And one of the adults, Pete, has a bag that looks like a bowling ball bag, but that's not what it is. And Pete and Galen agree to help get their car out of the road because their truck has a flat tire. But the whole time, Pete is like, he's got Billy within arm's reach, right? So they help get the car out of the road. And then Grandpop kind of picks up on what's going on. He's like, oh, these are like outlaws. They're going to rob us straight up. And even though, like Dylan said, it was kind of predictable, I still think the scene overall, when I was reading it, like the tension was there. Oh, and I think it was King did a magnificent job writing that scene and everything that followed. Like it felt very tense while I was reading it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Even they were those characters, and I know I keep harping on this audio thing, but Will Patton really nailed this one on the head with they were just these guys who came across as nice, but there was an ominous to it too. It wasn't like, it was clear that like they were those dudes who were like playing nice, but there was like an underlining thing to it. And I do agree with you 100% on that, Robert, that it was very tense in this scene. I want to get to this part. So like all the things are kind of going on. Dad's like, here, I'll give you some money or something like that, or whatever it was. And they just take the wallet, they put it in the bag. And then they're like, I want more. And Grandpa's like, hey, I have so much money in my trunk in this bag. And so I want to ask you guys this because, I know, Dylan, that you said it was predictable, and it definitely was, because we mentioned all the collectibles in Grandpop's bag there early on. But did anyone else have any wild predictions about what was going to happen within that bag that Grandpop had? Did anybody else think anything crazy was going to happen, or did you guys just suspect that Grandpop was getting ready to take a Louisville Slugger to somebody's dome?
I mean, I definitely, I'd say that part probably wasn't as predictable for sure. I don't know what I necessarily expected, but I mean, as you said, the Louisville Slugger to the dome was not on my list of expectations.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So the bag that Grandpop's had in the trunk is full of baseball memorabilia. He had a Louisville Slugger bat that was signed by Ted Williams. He had a baseball glove that was signed by DiMaggio, and he had a bunch of baseball cards worth all this money. But it was the bat specifically that made Galen kind of be like, oh, I know that name. And Grandpa's like, it's bad worth $7,000, dude. What's up? And so for me, I kind of didn't expect the baseball bat to the dome. They mentioned Grandpa fought in the war, and I felt like he had a gun in there and he's just going to waste these dudes. Like, hey, kids, look how cool your grandpa is. I just killed these 2 dudes trying to rob us. Like, I thought the story was going to be that. I didn't know it was going to go bat to the dome, but I loved it. But like when Galen and Pete showed up, the story shifted and it was like a life or death situation story. Like, so prediction wise, I was like, okay, either this whole family gets whacked out and their car gets stolen, or they kill these guys and they drive off into the night.
Yeah. So after you guys just shared your predictions, I'm scared to share mine because mine was like way out in left field. I was like, okay, there's a portal in this bag.
Oh, man. You were going straight Dark Tower, dude?
I was going Dark Tower. I was like, the bag is actually a portal to another land. And these dudes are dead. Like, that's just like. That's
I like yours better, dude.
That's where my mind went, dude. Because I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, at some point in this You Like It Darker book, something whacked out's going to happen. And we're all going to be like, whoa. But maybe that's just part of King's thing, man. I don't know.
He did keep it grounded in reality. I think the most shocking thing, honestly, that happened at the end is like he's beating this dude with the bat, like 80 years old, knocking him unconscious, keeps hitting him. And while he's beating him, he looks over at his son. He's like, get the guy, get Pete with the gun. And what does Frank do, bro? What does Frank do to protect his family? My man, the flight kicked in. That homie just stood shook. His little boy went to bat for Grandpops. Little old Billy's like, nah, man, he already peed on himself and everything. He didn't care. He's biting that dude. He's doing everything he can to get that gun while old dad's over there looking like a chump.
Yeah. All right. You boys ready to get in this lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. So this first one here, we had some people in Discord who shared some thoughts on this story. Is this story mid? I'm going to start with Dylan.
Honestly, I feel like for me, it was mid. And that could just be because it's the first one that I've read out of all the short stories. It could also be because I went into it expecting some very supernatural, over the top sort of thing. And so maybe I just, because my expectations were up here and the deliverance of the story was just kind of here, that could be why I think it's mid, but I don't know.
Yeah. Robert?
You know what's not mid? The latest episode of the Optic Blast broadcast. But this story was just fine. It was fine. Like, compared to some of the other stories I've read in this, like, it's definitely going to track down towards the bottom. So yeah, I guess my answer is it was mid. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll echo what you guys are saying. It's definitely a mid story. It's not bad though. And if you own the book, it's not something you want to skip because there are parts in it that are very well done. But as far as like from start to finish, I mean, I was entertained, but it's not one I'll revisit. There's a couple that we've read so far that I feel like, hey, I want to revisit and see if I missed something down the road. This is not one of them. All right, here we go. In that same vein, Robert, we'll start with you on this. Would more time in this story, in this world, if it was getting developed more, do you think more time would have made a difference?
I guess if maybe we could have gotten to the psyche of like every character of the family more to see like what makes them tick. Like, what is the underlying reason why the dad just froze up? Is he always just been a coward? I mean, Grandpa kind of loses that and smacks him in the face after it's all done. But I started to say the story's largely forgettable, but Grandpops kind of carried it, and he's kind of going to be the thing I remember. So I will say more time probably would have helped just because I wanted more time with Grandpops.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of echo or to kind of build upon what you were saying, didn't they say something? Didn't Grandpop say something to his son there where he was like, hey, you had a chance to step up. You had a chance to defend your family. You failed.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Now get in the car and drive, kind of thing, basically.
I don't even think he let him drive. He told his daughter-in-law to drive. He's like, Corin, you drive. You sit up front and think about what a little chump you are on the way back. Yeah.
All right, Dylan, would more time make a difference to you?
I don't know. I feel like again, I'm not like some veteran book reader, but I feel like the pacing of the story was a little weird for a short story. To me, I feel like the car ride was like, it felt like so long and drawn out for a 40-minute story. Like, I feel like it focused so much on just specifically the car ride. It felt like I was reading a novel that was a lot longer, and that would have been like one scene in the novel. So I feel like maybe if there was more time, if it could have been like multiple stories that all somehow connected together.
Okay.
If they added more time to do something like that, then maybe like if we got like maybe a side thing about like Pete, or maybe whatever happened before that, maybe, or something like, I don't know. But I think it could make a difference. But at the same time, I feel like it is a very simple story too. So like, it doesn't need a whole lot to it. So I don't know. It could go either way. But I definitely think it probably could make a difference depending on which way you want to go with the story. I don't know.
Sure. I'm kind of sensing from what you were saying, almost that V.E. Schwab and Vengeance approach, where, hey, we got the car scene. Now we go to chapter 2 after 10 minutes. Now we're with Pete, we're with the girl in the blue shoes, and we kind of walk our way to that thing. Dude, I think that would have been kind of cool. Like, personally, I think that would be cool. Okay, all right. Let me ask you guys this. This is a personal question. This is related to the book, but it could be, from just pulling from your own memories. Are there any road trip memories that you have that were scary or unusual? Because that's really what the story is. They go on this road trip, something terrifying happens, something unusual happens, and maybe you haven't been in this extreme of a situation, but can you pull back from any memories of your past where this has happened, something unusual or scary has happened to you? Robert, we'll start with you, bro.
Sure, man. I took my family on a vacation, and we decided to drive our own vehicle and not a rental car. And my worst nightmare of all time happens. The check engine light pops on when we're like 200 miles away from home, and the transmission's acting real wonky. So, but it makes it to the destination spot. I hit up AutoZone, and they tell me what the issue is, and I do what any guy who is fortunate enough to still have their father around and has no idea what's going on with the car. I called Dad. I was like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what the guy's telling me. And my dad says, son, do not take that car to a local mechanic and let them see your out-of-state tags. They're going to overcharge you. I know the issue with that car. You'll make it back home safely. I trusted my dad, and he's right. I made it back home safely. But that car, there's a lot of hills on the interstate coming back. And that car would not go faster than 35 up anytime we had any incline. So I just have cars screaming past us at 70, 80 miles an hour while I'm going 35 on the expressway. It was a harrowing experience, my friends. I was white knuckle driving the whole time.
Dylan.
I haven't really been on very many road trips necessarily. I guess if you would consider the Danger Run a scary road trip, I've done that before.
That's pretty cool, dude. Is that like you go to haunted houses, or
yeah, you just travel and you get in a car with a group of friends, and they give you directions to different haunted houses, and you just go explore. So it wasn't necessarily like a real life situation. It was just haunted houses. I was pretty scared, but it was fun.
That's legit. I say for me, so me and one of my brothers, Zach, who, stepbro, but we went to Wisconsin one time. We went to Milwaukee, and we get there and we accidentally, well, I say accidentally, but things happen. We spend all our money, on our first like 2 nights there. We plan on spending like 4 or something. And so we spend all our money. And so we're like, oh man, we got to get back home. So we get in the car, we start driving, but we couldn't make it all the way back. And so we're like, dude, we got to stay at this. We've got to find a place to stay. There was this little hotel, that was like 45 minutes outside of Milwaukee called Paul's Hotel. Paul's Motel. It wasn't even hotel. It was motel. Oh, and that it's bad news. And so we walk in, it's like so late at night, dude. And we walk into the office area, and it's something straight out of a movie. There's a little bell. No one's in there. We ring the bell. I'm like, hopefully things work out. There's a sign, and it's not digital or anything. It's like a hanging sign with the price, and the price was like $35.99 a night. So we're like, all right, perfect. Like, we got that. We're like, we got that. I think we can manage. And so we get into this, we get into the lobby, ring the bell, and we kept ringing it. And we sat there for 20 minutes. We're like, well, dude, I mean, I guess we just leave or what? And we ring it, and this lady yells at us from the back. And as she's walking out of the door, all these cats come flooding into the lobby too. And so now there's us, this lady who's clearly asleep, and like 30 cats. She gives us our hotel key. We go into the hotel room. It's all cement walls. Like, and part of the ceiling was actually drooping down, and it smelled like cat pee. So I'm not gonna lie, dude, it was scary in there.
Did you have a bed?
We did have a bed.
That's all you needed, dude.
We got to wake up the next day, so we're good. All right. All right, here we go. 2 more questions. What happened to Pete? What happened to him? What do we think happened to him?
All right, guys. So, little context. At the end of the story, Galen gets the business. He did. He got Louisville Sluggard. But Pete kind of makes it away from the family and just runs off.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, there's no closure. Peach is gone.
He gone.
I want to assume, like, how many people travel this road and his car's got a flat tire. I assume Pete dies of starvation or thirst somewhere along the way.
I may be wrong about this, but didn't they come from the inn? Wouldn't he just go back?
The inn was dilapidated, and they were just like, it had holes in the ceiling. There was a hole in the floor. That's where they found the body. So, like, the inn is uninhabitable. Their truck had a flat tire, and they were broke down in front of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something tells me that they have a bigger connection than we were led to believe to the inn somehow.
You think they're grifters and they actually live at the inn?
Yeah. And they use the truck as like my truck's broke down.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
I didn't think about that, dude. That's a good take.
Pete went through a portal somewhere. In my mind, there's a portal in this story. So that's where Pete's at, dude. He's in some other distant land. All right, here we go. Close us out. Here we go. Final 3 words. Dylan, let's go ahead. Man, let's let Dylan close us out, okay? So, Robert, give us the first. You're first. I'll go second. We'll let Dylan end it for us.
Baseball, America's game. America's pastime. Sorry.
Okay. I put Grandpops the GOAT. If it weren't for him, bro.
The GOAT.
It weren't for him, bro.
I changed my 3 words to America's favorite pastime.
Yeah. Dylan.
Blow my stack.
Yes.
Hey! All right, friends. We hope you're continuing to read with us through the stories you like it darker. Next week, Robert, go ahead and hit us next week's. What are our next week's books that are going to be on the main episode again?
Next week here on the Nerdy Reads podcast, you can join us for the Turbulence Expert, and Lori will be the 2 stories we're going to cover on our full episode. We'll be doing another micro episode next week also, where we're going to cover Red Screen.
Yes. So still making our way through this. We're still loving it, enjoying it. Stephen King really does know how to write some characters, and he does a lot with so little few pages. So we're looking forward to digging deeper into some of these other ones. And so, guys, here at the Nerdy Reads podcast, you enjoy a good story. Believe your story matters. So be good to each other. Stay nerdy, our friends. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.